Are you ready? It's East Anglian derby time. Welcome to Blue Monday, a nervy Ipswich Town podcast. I'll put this to Seb. I'll put this to the live chat here on YouTube. Are you looking forward to this one?
Is it possible to look forward to this game given the history in the last 16 years? I was really looking forward to the one in December 2023, the 2-2 draw, because me and Rich did the pre-match show then. I think it was the first pre-match show we'd ever done facing Norwich. And yeah, we were excited and we were well up for it. And obviously that kind of didn't work out in the end. So yeah, it's a game that I think I saw you on one of the shows earlier today, and you kind of said once it kicks off, you're all right because it's in the hands of the players, isn't it? But the walk to the stadium, the breakfast baps in the Greyhound beforehand, the team news, etc., that's when you're a little bit nervy. And yeah, it's kind of one of those enjoyable kind of things you have to go through sometimes in life. I don't want to sound like a sadomasochist, but sometimes you enjoy things that are meant to be, horrible and stuff. And hopefully, for once, for the first time in whatever it is, we'll come out on the right side of it.
Do you think if there wasn't this god-awful streak, the experience would be more enjoyable?
Yeah, probably. I mean, if the shoe was on the other foot and we were unbeaten against Norwich for the last 16 years, we'd probably go into these games full of confidence, wouldn't we? It's just we've come so close on so many occasions. You think of the closer equaliser at Carrow Road after Chambers puts us 1-up in the 89th minute. Should have beaten them. That game in 2023 when Broadhead probably should have had a first half hat trick. Played pretty well in the Paul Hurst 1-1 draw. And
should have won that one, mate.
There were so many times when we should have got ourselves across the line. Unfortunately, we didn't. So we kind of come into it on a bit of a downer, given the history. Norwich come into it from a much more bragging rights for the last 16 years, but obviously their season hasn't gone to plan yet. So it's probably two very nervous fan bases going into this one on Sunday.
I subscribe to the theory that even though we were probably favourites in the home game in the promotion season, that was due to form and a virtuoso managerial performance for the entirety of that season. I think this is the first time we've been favourites based on the quality of the 11s since Paul Lambert, Grant Holt and Wes Hoolahan. I don't think we can say, right, man for man, we just have the better players now. I think this is the first time in a long while that's been the case. Do you agree?
Yeah, very much so. We were kind of always the poor relations to them, weren't we? They had the parachute payments, they had the Premier League kind of quality of players, and we were kind of scraping in the bargain bin at times for players, weren't we? So yeah, going into this one, it does feel very different. Obviously, the League One side, the December 2023 game was a game brought about by incredible momentum and, like you say, the absolute amazing achievements of Kieran McKenna. If you look at it kind of more rationally, it's a side that had an incredible run behind them going into that game. Was sitting high at the top of the championship versus a side which was a year one parachute side at the time. I think they probably must have been year two were they at the time, and they must they would have had good quality in that squad then as well. So yeah, it does feel a bit different this time that we are. Well, we said it so many times on the various podcasts this season. We are the baddies this year, and hopefully that will show on Sunday.
Have you seen those graphs about how often words get Googled? I'd love to see a graph for the word parachute payments in the city of Norwich, because it didn't really get used until around August this year. And now they can't seem to stop talking about it. At least we acknowledge the advantage where maybe that hadn't been acknowledged very much from the other end over those years. Thank you everybody for joining here. This is Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. I'm pretty pleased, Seb, honestly, that there was a midweek round and this is on the back end of a 3-game week, that we haven't had to have this sicky feeling in our stomach. But let's all do this together as a group. We can get through this and hopefully end this god-awful 16-year streak, Seb. Someone DM'd me on Twitter, and I can't remember who it was, but I'd said on another show that, we've barely played them in the 16 years. And he sent me the data, and it's only been 6 seasons. And of course, we played them 4 times in what year was that? 14, 15 season. So there's been a couple of years where we've been above them. There's been a lot of years where they've been above us, but I mean, 14 games is 14 games. 16 years is 16 years, but it's an interrupted undefeated streak, Seb. Are you going to give me that one?
Yeah, that's the fairest way to describe it. Quite a lot of draws in there as well, aren't there? You know, we just mentioned the 1-1 game under Paul Hurst, the 2-2 game last year. We drew obviously the first leg of that playoff semi in 2015 where Paul Anderson scored 1-1 as well. So, yeah.
It's a great moment, that, wasn't it?
It was brilliant, wasn't it? You know, the stadium. Do you remember that guy that punched his ceiling and paid for repair?
He paid for it. Yeah, amazing.
Plasterboard and stuff. So yeah, there've been quite a few draws in there, and as we said, we have come so close on a couple of occasions to ending this hoodoo, but haven't quite got it across the line just yet. And Sunday, obviously, is another chance to do that.
Yeah, there we go. Fairly mixed in the chat. Some people are braver than me and looking forward to it. Some people are equally as cowardly as me. There you go. Can't wait and dread. It's normally that thing, but as Seb already said, the trauma of recent years is definitely a big part of that, isn't it? Seb, where do you want to go news-wise quickly before we go in to the minutiae of, frankly, the most important game to fans of Ipswich and Norwich?
Let's fire through the topics very quickly. Only 3 little ones before we get into Norwich. So just very interested quickly on your thoughts on the Bristol City result and performance. Me and Mikey did a post-match straight away at full-time, one of those instant reaction shows. I was kind of bracketing it in the column of haven't played well. It's a difficult place to go. They're quite good at home. They've started the season well. Take the point and move on. But there was quite a bit of, in the chat, people weren't happy with the performance and the amount of changes that were made. Just give us your couple of minutes worth on it and what you kind of took from the game.
I want to kind of end it, excuse me, with a question to you, Seb, about the type of football that seems to be being played in the Championship in rounds 1 to 9 so far. And it feels a very stoic, very pragmatic league at the moment, doesn't it? It feels safety first. It feels cautious. And I have the utmost respect for these men I'm about to list. But in the top 9, I've got Nathan Jones. I've got Paul Heckingbottom. I've got Marty Cifuentes, who is battening down the hatches if you've watched Leicester this season. I've got Struber, who loves a press. Sam Parkins convinced me that Ryan Mason's a defensive manager as well. And I've got Mark Robbins and Rob Edwards. So we normally bemoan draws, don't we? Draws away from home are better than draws at home. And draws when everybody else is drawing are better than draws where 2 teams score 100 points or someone scores 97 and the next team's got 90 and we need 96 or whatever. That'd be a fine thing. But I thought it'd be open. I was a bit naive. I thought, well, we'll play football, they'll press, and there'll be chances for both sides. And I don't think we had a shot on target in the first half. And I think Bristol City had 1 shot on target in the second half. So you've got an impotent team in both halves. But I'm beginning to think that we're going to get a stoic season in the Championship where someone is going to get promoted probably in second place and they're not going to have been spectacular. They're going to have been steady, like Warnock's Cardiff or Heckingbottom's Sheffield United. So I agree with the people who didn't like the performance. It wasn't amazing. But if you wrap that narrative around it, is it that bad? What's your take on the I never want to call the Championship dull because I bloody love it. But I mean, I think we've had 15 draws, Seb, in the last 2 rounds. That's absurd.
And we're seeing stuff like set pieces, long throws, the kind of things that maybe move their way out of the game a little bit over the last few years are kind of making a bit of a return as well. I guess when you list those managers there, I'd never looked at that. When you listed those managers there, there's clearly an obvious trend towards the top of the league. I guess the pushback will be across the entire season. Is that just something? Do you remember us under Mick in 17-18 where the shots on target was ridiculous? That we won the first 5 games. Shots on target was nuts. It wasn't sustainable. And eventually, things kind of leveled out. I wonder if we're in that kind of world this season, perhaps. And, in a month's time, we might look at it and suddenly the the sides that play the high press attacking football have worked it out and kind of moved themselves up the table, and the sides that are maybe overachieving in certain metrics start to slide their way down. It's an interesting one.
Normally goes that way. I just think when you've got a team like Birmingham with that resource, if you take out Birmingham's game against Swansea, they've had one shot on target in the previous. We'll get one of the data boys to look at it on the Monday show on Top Tier. This feels like way more draws than we've ever had, and I'm not a data guy, but anecdotally, just less shots and less shots on target in this league. But I'm sure you've got an interesting stat as it pertains to a couple of Norwich's away games and shots on goal this season. But yeah, I understand people being a little bit suspicious of that performance, don't you? I mean, you did the post match, didn't you? What? Just wrap up on Bristol City for me.
Yeah, I think by the end of the show, we'd kind of concluded that we thought 6 was too many changes. We thought it disrupted the natural kind of rhythm and the patterns of play that we'd started to see against Sheffield United and against Portsmouth. So we kind of figured that the 6 changes were too many, but hadn't played well at all, got a point. We move on. You know, they're a side that started the season well. They were excellent, weren't they? Ashton Gate last year. The vast majority of their points came at home last season in the Championship when they finished 6th in the playoffs. And so, yeah, it was.
Who's their manager? Remind me.
Somebody will discuss where it's not quite going as well. We'll come on to that one shortly. So, yeah, we filed it as a decent point, and we move on. And speaking of, decent points, ITFC women are away to Sheffield United on Sunday at 1 p.m. and they are looking for their back-to-back wins. They beat Pompey at is it not Layer Road, the Colchester, whatever the Colchester Stadium is called these days. They beat Portsmouth there last weekend, so they are looking to get back-to-back wins. Sheffield United are bottom of the league. They've got 1 point so far this season in WSL2, and they actually finished bottom last year with 7 points as well, but they were granted a reprieve when, was it Blackburn, pulled out of the league. So hopefully ITFC women can get back-to-back wins, and well, if they can get, that'll put them on 7 points, and that would be a hell of a statement. Hopefully they could then look to push on. So best of luck. It's on Sunday at 1 p.m. away at Sheffield United. And just quickly, finally, the Pompey game was the September date for fans supporting food banks. The October game is on Sunday. It's the Norwich game. Same place as last time. It's the collection points opposite Planet Blue at Sir Alf and in the fan zone. Visit at ITFC_FSF on Twitter or X for a list of recommended items. Ben, Norwich City.
Go on then. I'm gonna bat it straight back to you, but go ahead. Go on.
So they're not coming into the game in I've put the title, the script as Not a Happy Home Life. Liam Manning obviously is coming into this game on some real pressure. They've lost for 5 times in a row at Carrow Road for the first time in their history. They are doing okay away from home, but some of the data would suggest a couple of those results are complete outliers and they should have been beaten on the day. Is it out of the question that, and I don't think this will happen, if it's a heavy defeat at Portman Road on Sunday, let's say a 3, a 4, or a 5, I don't think that's going to happen. Do you think there's a world where he's in real trouble and they might look to pull the trigger already because we live in this kind of short-termism view of football management? And if they does, where does that leave Ben Napper, who will have appointed 2 managers that haven't worked out? Do you see a world where he's at risk going into the international break if Sunday goes badly for them?
Well, never say never, Seb. It depends how much like a season of Succession Norwich City is, because you've mentioned that you've got the Atanasios who completed the kind of slow moving takeover from Delia and Michael last season that got completed. But believe you me, they have been in the background and had influence for a long time. You've got Ben Napper, who's the sporting director, who replaced Stuart Webber, predates the Atanasios fully running the club, but doesn't predate their involvement. And then you've got Liam Manning, who, is the last one in the door. And sometimes you know what that means when people are wielding power and trying to protect their positions. I agree with you that I think you get a pass potentially. I mean, Stuart Webber took the hospital ball for Norwich by bringing his mate David Wagner in to try and steady it. And I was talking to Sam from the Pink 'Un today, and saying that was almost the worst thing that happened to them because they got in the playoffs and they weren't very good. And then Leeds battered them in the playoffs and they could have been way ahead of where they were in terms of, going again post parachute payments. But yeah, when you get in the playoffs, you have to try and win the playoffs, don't you? That's the deal. So it wouldn't look very good on Napa, but then Napa doesn't want to fall on his own sword, does he? And you can get a scapegoat. I don't know how you feel. I think Manning's good. And I think if they were to stick with him, that it'd probably work out all right for them. But if you've got a sporting director trying to save their skin, then the buck can be passed on to the manager. And you were sort of suggesting that what's his name, Torrup, last season for Norwich, got told one thing and then sacked for not doing another thing. So yeah, I, like you, don't see that happening. But man, you know what? International break and twiddling idle hands, or was the saying, devil makes work for idle hands over the 2 weeks? And yeah, I assume you're talking about a hefty, demoralizing defeat. What's your take?
Yeah, I remember you did a video on your channel when Manning was appointed, and I'm sure, and I've heard you say it multiple times since, that he is a slow burner, isn't he? Things take time to get going when Manning kind of moves into a club. And is it a case they just need to be a little bit patient? I think we'll discuss the West Brom game in a minute. The last night's performance I thought was a lot better. I thought they were a little bit unlucky in the 1-0 defeat at Carrow Road. I just think I was surprised at how the boos at half-time were half-hearted. The boos at full-time were a lot kind of louder. And I just really would worry that if they were to get turned over, it's almost that does Napa take the easy option to relieve a little bit of the pressure, because it would be toxic, I think, if they then play, I don't know who they've got at Carrow Road next time.
Bristol City is the next game after.
Oh, the irony.
Fun for Manning, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, how football works. If they were to lose to us, but they keep him in post, and then, Bristol City do come up and do a number and they lose, I would worry it would get very toxic up there quite quickly. So I like him, like you. I think he's a good manager. But yeah, I would fear if he can't turn this around quickly in front of his own fans, then they might be in for a bit of trouble. We'll discuss the state of play. Oh, sorry.
Seb, sorry to interrupt, mate. What I'll say as well, I've just watched his press conference, trying to prep for this show. And I'm not a behaviour expert, but I think one of the problems he's got is, and I'm not just saying this because of my allegiances, obviously, to Ipswich, but he speaks in a vaguely similar way to Kieran McKenna in terms of some of the words he uses and the way he uses language in a footballing context. I don't feel he speaks with the same level of authenticity as a McKenna does. And when you're not winning games, even though it's absolutely vital, you need to be this calm when you're not winning games. I think football supporters, they want tub thumping. They want one of Joe Fairs' speeches at the end of the Blue Monday podcast after we've lost. So, do you know what I mean? He's not that different from McKenna in terms of the volume he speaks at, the way he speaks. But I don't know. There's something different about how. Do you see what I'm trying to get at? And do you feel that?
Yeah, a little bit. I know what you mean. When after you're on an awful run, you want to hear possibly passion and stuff from the manager, and that might not necessarily be the best answer. That might simply be the manager giving sound bites to appease people. Often the calm managers who talk rationally about things and can spot the things that us fans can't see are the kind of the most cerebral and logical ones that hopefully will sort situations out. So yeah, I see what you're saying. I watched his pre-match presser today and I thought he was very calm and very collected. I didn't really sense an air of defeat about him or anything like that, considering it's, very, very quick turnaround time from last night. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what happens he could become a hero, couldn't he? If they do come to Portman Road and they win, suddenly all the pressure's lifted and he's a hero. Because I'd imagine most Norwich fans are going into this game with pretty much zero kind of expectations, given the state of the two clubs and the financial disparity of the two playing squads. So if he does that, he can suddenly become a hero, and everything is almost forgotten instantly for a couple of weeks until that Bristol City game. But as we've said, it's not working well. They're currently sat 19th with 8 points, played 8 games, won 2, both away from home, drawn 2, both away from home, lost 4, all at Carrow Road, scored 10 goals, conceded 11. They are 2 points above the relegation zone. They are 5 points off the playoffs. I mentioned earlier that they'd lost 5 games in a row at Carrow Road for the first time in their history. They also lost to Southampton in the League Cup. That was the 5th game. The last 5 shows 1 win against Blackburn, 2 draws, Coventry and Stoke, and 2 defeats, Wrexham and West Brom last night. Away from home, however, they are unbeaten on the road. They are 5th in the away table. They've beaten Portsmouth and Blackburn. They drew with Coventry and Stoke, but I'm sure everyone has seen this number banded around on social media,
28.
left, right, and centre. 51 shots were conceded in the 2 games against Coventry and Stoke. And if you take all 4 away games so far this season, so Portsmouth, Blackburn, Coventry and Stoke, they've conceded 82 shots on their travels, an average of over 20 per game. So they are certainly a side that is struggling to cope with conceding, with tightening up at the back away from home. Last season, worth mentioning, finished 13th with 57 points. They were 11 points off the playoffs, 8 points off relegation. They brought in Johannes Hopp Thorup in the summer 2024. Bit of a disconnect, it would seem, between what the upper kind of management expected for the season versus what he kind of thought the deal was. He was sacked with 2 games to play. Jack Wilshere was placed in charge for those last 2 games, took 4 points. I think a lot of people probably thought he might get the gig, given that Napa appointed him as a first-team coach and he'd come with a coaching background at Arsenal, but he left in the summer before Manning kind of joined. And yeah, I guess that we mentioned it once already, that a sporting director can probably get one managerial decision wrong, but it's a tough sell to the ownership, etc., to get 2, I think. And Ben Napa will probably be concerned going into this one that he might be put in a bit of an awkward position.
Well, it's not just the manager, Seb, and I know you're going to come on to the squad, but it felt like they were going to be busy, a bit like us actually in the summer. It felt like they were going to be busy in the transfer window, and then they were pretty much twice as busy as anyone thought they were going to be. And I think that happened for a few clubs in the window this summer, didn't it? Us included, where it just kept going and kept going and kept going. So he's not just put a manager in there; he's essentially put an entire new squad stroke first 11 in there, hasn't he?
Yeah, we'll discuss the transfers, but they have spent money. They've sold a couple of players for big money. We're 22 minutes and 48 seconds in, and we've not mentioned Nunez once yet. So we'll discuss the players that moved on to bring fees in and how they reinvested it. But yeah, it's kind of all or nothing for Ben Napa at this point, I would suggest. Last night, they lost 1-0 at home to West Brom. I thought it was an improved performance to recently. I thought they were actually quite unlucky not to get something from the game. Josh Madger got the only goal on 20 minutes, and then Josh Griffiths basically made 2 excellent saves in the last 10 minutes. One was a header from Jovan Makama. We'll discuss him later on in the show. And then Antti Sinak's incredible save. It falls to him. He's on the run into the box, and it's a brilliant save from Josh Griffiths. 59% possession for Norwich, 1.39 XG, kind of shown in those 2 high-quality chances in the last 10 minutes of the game to West Brom's 0.89. 16 shots, 5 on target. But interestingly, only 18 touches for Josh Sargent. They really struggled to get him involved in the game last night. He's their danger man. We'll discuss him shortly. He's kind of the one that of the players that moved on in the summer, perhaps they were delighted to keep him in the building, but really struggled to get him involved last night. But he has started the season pretty decently. A bit on Liam Manning, just briefly, for people who kind of aren't sure where he's come from in the past. So he joined them from Bristol City after leading Bristol to 6th last season. He joined Bristol City from Oxford. He left them in November 2023 when they were second in the League One table. I remember a 0-0 draw between Ipswich and MK Dons in the February time, I think it was, a couple of months after McKenna took over. Liam Manning in the
Ipswich
MK
filled that entire massive away in there at MK, yeah?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, 0-0 draw. Liam Manning was in charge for MK Dons. He finished third that season with 89 points, but lost in the playoffs. He was properly schooled by Gareth Ainsworth across 2 legs, wasn't he?
I
It
was
was kind of
at the second game. Yeah.
the contrast of footballing styles. Bit of experience, Lommel as a manager, West Ham's under-23s, an academy director as part of the Man City group, you know, the New York City group and Man City and all those kind of clubs. Obviously, came through as a player at Norwich's academy, joined us in 2002, but was released a few years later, having never made a senior appearance. And he's assisted at Norwich by Chris Hogg. Chris Hogg is his regular kind of deputy, son-in-law of George Burley. He's up there with him as well. And yeah, that 0-0 draw at MK Stadium in February 2022, it must have been. And I remember his Bristol City side coming and doing a pretty good tactical job on us, certainly for the first sort of 65, 70 minutes in the March, February time it would have been the promotion season. It was a very late goal from Leif Davis, but they went 1-0 up. Tommy Conway scored a great header to put them 2-1 up. Naki Wells missed a chance to make it either 2-0 or 3-1 perhaps.
Did Ali miss a penalty as well?
He did, yeah, he did. And we kind of thought that he'd done a really good job on us tactically that night until Leif Davis kind of, you know, we were scoring late goals left, right, and centre. So
Reflection
he is a
FC,
manager.
Peak Lucky FC, that one, wasn't it? Hey, with 96 points, yeah.
He is a manager who, in the past, has shown excellent tactics against Ipswich. So don't be surprised if they do set up and make it awkward for us to play on Sunday.
Wow. So much to dig into there, Seb. I mean, do you want to go into what do you want to go into? Do you want to go into tactics or do you want to go into players specifically?
Well, let's do the fun things first. Let's do the head-to-head, the last meetings, and play a bit of a lineup quiz. So it is incredibly tight in the overall head-to-head. 43 wins for Town, 23 draws between the two, 43 wins for Norwich. It's an exact record. So something will give, unless it's another draw, something will likely give on Sunday. Last meetings, we've already mentioned the 2-2 draw, December 2023. Nathan Broadhead opening the scoring. Should have had a first half hat trick. Jonathan Rowe got 2, both questionable if I remember rightly. I think one was offside and maybe both were questionable and offside. And then Wes Burns equalised, but we couldn't.
It wasn't him that was offside either time. I mean, he had like 4 touches in our box and scored twice, didn't he? He was just the guy that day, and we'll get into this. There is no James Maddison, there is no Emi Buendia or Temi Pukki here. There is no Marcelino Nunes. There is no Johnny Rowe. I know there is a Josh Sargent. Sorry, carry on, mate.
And then the previous time before that, 16 years ago, the 3-2 win for Town in April 2009 in Jim McGilton's last game in charge. Other memorable moments, the Brian Gunn air kick in 1996, the 5-0, obviously a 3-1 victory in November 2006 where Danny Haynes got a double and Sylvan Legwinski got one. And then let's play our fun lineup quiz where I kind of usually make Rich kind of squirm live on air. I chose these before I listened to Rewind, and Rewind did cover 2 of these games. So I'll give you a choice. You can pick one of these 3. Do you want the 2009 Jim McGilton's last game, the last time we beat them, the 2006, I've just said it, the Danny Haynes double, or do you want the 5-0 in 1998? What would you rather? I'll let you pick.
Oh, come on. Obviously, I want the 5-0, don't I?
4-4-2, peak Burley era. We went through a run where we were scoring like 5 at home. Was it 3 consecutive games? Yeah, go for it. See how many you can get.
It was Oxford, wasn't it? Norwich and Port Vale.
Port Vale.
I think we scored 3 against Huddersfield. Alex Matthew.
Alex Matthew, tick.
Bobby Petter.
Tick.
David Johnson.
Tick.
Matt Holland.
Yeah.
Mick Stockwell.
Yeah.
Richard Wright.
Yeah. So 2 centre halves that are left. We'll go. So, yep.
Tony Mowbray.
Yep.
Steve Sedgley?
No, gone. But his replacement, the part exchange player, did play.
Oh, Mark Venus.
Yep.
Who's the left back, Seb?
No, can't get it. Jamie Clapham.
Already? On loan?
Yeah, on loan. Yeah, I think he was on loan, wasn't he? And then he joined permanently that summer.
So it's Gus Ullenbeek?
Yep, right wing. So that leaves Matt Holland's midfield partner. It's before Jim McGill.
Oh, man.
Could play right wing, could play right wing back. sold for £6 million to fund the promotion
Kieran
cost.
Dyer.
Kieran
Played
Dyer,
centre mid, did he?
Centre mid alongside.
No wonder we won 5-0.
Ulenbeek on the right and Bobby Petter on the left. Yeah, fair play. No, you smashed that.
Did I get the right back?
Yeah, Mick Stockwell.
No, he played right back, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, that was insane, that game, was it? And Burley took Matthew off at half time, right?
Yeah, 3-0 first half hat trick and then subbed. And do you remember the ball was delivered by a helicopter and the pilot pulled out an Ipswich Town scarf and showed it off to all 4 stands. And
it was the first time I ever went in the North Stand that game.
Was it?
And
okay.
Matthew's first goal was about 50 seconds into the game or something ludicrous, wasn't it?
It's a throw-in, isn't it? And it's a volley and it's a great
goal. Yeah. Really. And that just opened the floodgates. And maybe that's what you need in this kind of a hoodoo. Just quickly, Seb, you mentioned the Brian Gunn air kick. Of course, who had the greatest view of the Brian Gunn air kick out of anybody in the known universe living today was Mr. James Scowcroft, who was charging Gunny down. And here's our guest at Blue Monday Live at Portman Road. This is after the West Brom game on October the 25th. Now, we had sold out of our allocation of tickets. Said, this sounds like we're doing an away game here or something, doesn't it? And we have spoken to Ipswich Town, and they are able, with a bit of jiggery pokery and moving the odd table and bringing the wall back a little bit, to stick another 50 seats in there. So if you follow that there QR code, if you are listening, just check the YouTube link. We're at 31 minutes and you'll see a QR code pop up. That will take you through where you can buy your tickets. And said we've got a couple of deals on where you're heavily discounted if you're either a top tier member or a Telegram member. And it works out, you may as well sign up for top tier or Telegram and get a ticket, and you basically get a month of one of those two things for the price of your ticket anyway. But maybe Mikey will ask Scully about that on the day.
Yeah, very much. He'll be a great guest, won't he? I mentioned it on the show, I think, on Tuesday night, and said for anyone who kind of fell in love with that Burley side when I was first getting into football, Scowcroft played such a huge role. Selling him in the summer of 2001 was a really bad era, wasn't it? And so I'm sure he's going to have lots of great stories to say. So it'll be a fantastic night. These shows always are. We had Russell Osman, we had Luke Chambers last time, who was fantastic. So yeah, just £5 if you're a Telegram member, £5 if you're a top tier subscriber. You get a month worth of content and a discounted ticket, obviously, to come along to the show. So highly recommend it. 50 left. Once they're gone, they are gone. So yeah, click on the QR code in the top left of the screen or check the description, or probably on our socials and stuff on our website. And hope to see as many people there as we possibly can. Yeah,
it's going to be great. Really, really looking forward to that. And doing it in the stadium with the pitch behind us is it's a bit of a dream for us who get to be on the stage. So come and see us. Right, where you want to go next, Seb?
Let's do players. Let's discuss their transfer business this summer, because we've already hinted at it that they have spent some money, and they've kind of been, I don't know if it's bad luck with injuries, but for the second or third year in a row, they are kind of getting these muscular injuries which are kind of affecting some of the new players they've bought in there. The headline was Matthias Ksisgarden, wasn't it? £7 million from Bromby. He was
to
one of the ones.
Sargent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that seemed a real steal at the time. There were rumours of Premier League clubs kind of sniffing around, so he seemed to be a really good buy. But he's injured; he will not feature. Also injured is Papa Amadou Diallo, £4.5 million from Metz. He's out. He's injured. He will not feature.
And he Miko was pretty Topic much at Watford, and they snuck in at the end to get him.
Yeah, very much. They kind of stole it, didn't they? Marko Topic, I think, is a central midfielder who loves to leave one on people. It'd be interesting to see if he comes into the starting 11 at the weekend. He was £3 million. They signed Pele Matson for £3 million to replace Nunez. I think he arrived like the day after or something. Jacob Wright, a couple of £1 million Quid from City.
Good player.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Keeper has started well this season. Vladan Kovacevic, £2.5 million from Sporting. And they bought in Harry Darling on a free. He's a player that I always liked, but he's really struggled
Yeah, he's good,
settle
isn't he?
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked him at Swansea. I like him as a player. I like it the way he brings balance to the back line, but he is struggling a little bit. Jeffrey Schlupp's come in as well to add a bit of experience from Palace. And then the departures, there's been 8 in total. The key ones, Jonathan Rowe's permanent move to Marseille came through, and then he was promptly sold to Bologna. It was a season-long kind of deal, and the obligation was there to be triggered, which it was. Borja Sainz had an incredible first half of last season. He was signed on a free transfer a couple of years ago and flogged to Porto for 12 million. So some excellent player trading there. Angus Gunn and Onel Hernandez were both released. Angus Gunn's gone to Forest as the third choice keeper. Hernandez recently signed for Charlton. And Marcelino Nunez left to cross the divide in, when was it? Was it mid-August, late August? 2025, obviously. Got his first start against Bristol City in the week. We'll discuss our predicted lineup towards the end of the show. I'd be surprised if either of us thought he would start, but I'm sure he will be brought on at some point, much to the delight of the Ipswich fans and the horror of the Norwich fans. Just a quick question for you. Norwich, much as it pained us, were always a good selling side, weren't we? You know, the parachute payment runs out, they sell Maddison. They signed Sarah for, was it 10 million and flog him for a load more a few years later.
After that, yeah.
Borja signs, free transfer, sold for 12 million. Adam Idar did he very
like
cheap?
9 million for him.
Yeah,
to
Celtic. Yeah,
and that's before you mentioned Ben Godfrey was 20 million or something to Everton. Max Aarons. Joe used to joke that they had 150 million quid's worth of defenders and couldn't defend. Who's the left back? Jamal Lewis.
Went to Newcastle, didn't he?
Yeah, really, really good money. So, yeah, they have been the best club. I think you'd agree in the EFL at managing to extend the tail of the advantage you get from the extra Premier League TV money and the parachutes. Nobody's done it better, really, have they?
No, I don't think so. They've sold incredibly well. I guess the thing I'd flip back at you, do you think a couple of not duff buys, but players who they've spent relatively big money on who aren't living up to the hype could hurt them? These players are both young. If you look at someone like Antti Cernat, he was 10 million quid, I think, and Matej Jurisic was 7 million quid. That's a lot of money from these reinvested fees. Both players are young. I think is Cernat 21 and Jurisic is 20 or so. So, you know, they've still got plenty of time to develop, but when you're kind of playing this Moneyball game that we see the likes of Brentford and Brighton play, one bad window can really start to hurt you. And do you perhaps think with these two players, they might have not necessarily made bad purchases because they might well come good, but are we getting to a time now where you think potentially their Moneyball, Josh Sargent aside, they're kind of running out of decent options to be able to flog?
Well, it's a law of diminishing returns, isn't it? That, you know, unless you pull a rabbit out of a hat every couple of years, it can't just be decent trading. But you're right to mention Josh Sargent because you only need one of those big sales every summer, essentially, don't you? And there is an argument that, you know, the landscape's changing in terms of PSR and, you know, people being a bit less crazy in the Championship. Obviously, the parachute payments distorts it for 3 teams coming down every season. But with the new owners as well, there's a bit less of a sense that it used to be that they were absolutely desperate and everybody knew that they were going to sell their best player every summer that they weren't in the Premier League. And even when they were in the Premier League, they often had, you know, one or other go out. But to your point, if Josh Sargent is still there next summer, then essentially those players you've just spoken about have a 18-month, 2-year run to get up and sort of boost their value. So there is assets there. And as much as it's a bone of contention with some of our fans about young lads in East Anglia and where they're going, a few of those players we mentioned have not been signed at all. They've been brought through the ranks, and they've always, you know, going back to a Darren Eady, Rob Green, brought players through as well. So yes, it's diminishing, Seb, but would I be surprised if they knocked out a big sale that we weren't? I mean, where did Johnny Rowe come from? And then a year later, it's then Nunez and Sarah, as you kind of alluded to as well. What do you think?
Do you think that if you take out the fact that Nunez joined us at the start of the summer window, if you'd have said to Norwich, right, Borja signs, Josh Sargent and Marcelino Nunez, you're going to lose two of them. Do you think keeping Sargent would have been their preferred option? Because obviously, Borja Signs had a great first half of last season, got his ban and wasn't as good as the second half of the season. Marcelino Nunez is a central midfielder who can provide a creative spark. Josh Sargent is the goal scorer. Do you think if you say you've got these three players, you're going to lose two? If you take out the fact they sold Nunez to us, do you think they all would have been quite happy to retain Sargent and lose the other two with the knowledge that, yes, they can probably flog him in 12 months' time, but he's going to get, if he stays fit, he's going to guarantee them 15, 17, 20 goals this season?
Depends whether you're optimising for the balance sheet or the pitch, doesn't it?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
On pitch, you want a 20-goal striker, don't you? That's who you want. And there was Sainz and there was Nunez and there was Sargent. And we said all the way through 2 out of 3. And I think everyone with their ear to the ground thought it'd be Sainz and Sargent that would go and Nunez that would stay. But it hasn't turned out to be that way. Very much like us with Broadhead as well, where as much as you love the guy and you'd rather keep them in the last year of their contract, if you're getting £7.5 million with this extra upside that no one can shut up about as well for another £2.5 million, then you want the goals. You always want the goal scorer, Seb, don't you? Surely.
Yeah, definitely, very much so. And yeah, he is one of their major threats. Really struggled last night, but he is a player that we need to keep a very close eye on Sunday. Let's do tactics quickly. Can you share the tactical pad screen? And I'll just briefly talk through how they kind of.
Can I just say a quick thank you to David Burgoyne in the chat? I flashed these up if you're watching on YouTube. David has gifted a Blue Monday membership, and there's 2 super chats in there. 15 euros. Thank you, David, for your continued support. The shows are absolutely free here, but if you do want to support via Super Chat, we won't bore you with YouTube's recent changes to their algorithm and a slight downturn in everybody's earnings. So it's a massive help at the moment. So.
Yeah, thank you very much to David. So this was how they lined up last night against West Brom. They've used a 3 at the back system for the first 5 games of the season, but as I mentioned, those injuries have started to bite, so they flipped it to a 4-2-3-1 for the last couple of weeks. If we look to bring it forward to the average player positions, I've already mentioned how kind of ineffectual Josh Sargent was. You will see he wasn't the most advanced player. It was the 3 behind him, Emil Marcondes, the number 10, who kind of pushed on beyond him.
Remind me to talk about him, Seb, when you finished.
Oscar Schwartau down the left and Sinach, the guy that had that really good chance that produced the save from Griffiths. They were the ones that kind of were getting further forward than Sargent in this game. Maatson and McLean kind of provided that central midfield kind of base. Darling had a lot of time on the ball last night, and their right-hand side was the real threat. Jack Stacey was the player last night. He's very similar to Leif Davis, and he spends a lot of his time in the attacking third of the pitch looking to whip the balls in. If we move it forward to how they were in possession, so where they took the most touches of the ball, that Jack Stacey is pretty much the most advanced player there. We're really interesting to see that battle down that left-hand side, our left, their right on Sunday, with him going up against Leif Davis for kind of a battle for the fullback to get most balls into the box. Kenny McLean was subbed off last night with a back injury, but Manning came out in the press conference today and said he might be okay. He likes to drop in to mate. Yeah, he likes to drop in between the 2 centre halves, pick up the ball, and kind of get them going. And Marcondes, like I said, one of the most advanced players, signed from Brentford. What did you want to say about him?
I just wanted to say he's a big game player, Marcondes. I watched a lot of Brentford when he was back there, and I think in all of the big games in their promotion, whether it be playoff semis or I think he might have even scored in the playoff final as well, and in that run-in. Bit of a luxury player, but he always showed up on the big game.
Yeah, so one to keep an eye out on the weekend. Just some stats for how they're kind of doing this season. They are 3rd bottom for pressing so far this season. They are the slowest team in the league for getting the ball from back to front quickly. They are also the 3rd bottom side for winning their aerial duels. We've already discussed how open they were in the away games at Coventry and Stoke. Over 50 shots conceded. So they are having real issues with kind of keeping clean sheets. Only 1 clean sheet kept so far this season. And
which game was that in, Seb?
It was the Blackburn. Was it 2-0 away at Ewood Park?
Right. Okay.
So that's the only clean sheet they've kept so far this year. And they are the highest in the league for errors leading to shots with 8. So, yeah, they're not they're capable of messing things up for themselves as well. Josh Sargent, let's talk about him briefly. 5 goals in 8 appearances so far this season, 15 goals in 32 appearances last season. Came really close to joining Wolfsburg in the summer, but the two clubs seemingly couldn't agree on a
I think he turned it
valuation.
down, didn't he?
Well, I'm not sure if it was that
Yeah.
the rumor, or they couldn't agree on a kind of a valuation between the two sides. It was very close to him leaving the club, but he didn't. And he is by far their biggest threat. Barely involved last night, but he is a quality player. I've already mentioned Jack Stacey, 1 assist and 1 goal so far this season. He will push right up on that right-hand side. He was hitting his crosses early against West Brom last night, averages 48 touches per game. Jovan Makama was the guy that had the header saved last night. Josh Griffiths got down well. He was signed for $1 million from
EFL?
Lincoln. Yeah,
Right,
from Lincoln.
yeah.
Signed from Lincoln. He's 6'5", 2 goals in 6 appearances so far this season, but only made 1 start. So I wouldn't be surprised if perhaps he were to come in to add a bit of physicality and a bit of X factor, given he played pretty well coming off the bench against West Brom. And the keeper's worth a mention as well. I mentioned he joined in the summer, Vladan Kovacevic. He's been decent for them so far this season.
Apart from on Wednesday, yeah.
Apart from, he kind of spills it almost in. There's a bit of static defending as well, isn't there? And then Josh Madger kind of pokes the ball home. But 1.09 goals prevented, 65% save rate. They've got some injuries. We've mentioned the injuries being a bit of an issue for a successive season again. Kenny McLean was seemingly subbed off injured, but like you said, I think he probably will start in that central midfield role. Already mentioned Chris Garden, he's out. Gab Forsyth, Shane Duffy, Papa Diallo and Ben Crisene are out longer term as well. So they do have a fair injury list as well. Do you think Manning comes to Portman Road? He might revert to a back 3, given he did it earlier in the season. Do you think he comes to spoil the day, be tough to play against, kind of, annoy the crowd, frustrate us, a bit like he did with Bristol City, and that's probably his best hope? But surely he doesn't turn up picking attacking players to try and take us on. He tries to spoil the game. Is that right?
Not necessarily spoil the game in terms of a spectacle, certainly spoil it in terms of us as Ipswich fans. A couple of the best performances you would have seen from Bristol City last year under Manning were at home to Southampton. I think they ended Southampton's long, this is 2 seasons ago, by the way, undefeated streak, and West Ham as well. I remember them beating West Ham in one of the cups, and they literally just sat there compact, never got ahead of the ball, and attacked quickly, basically. So that, you'd imagine, will be there. I don't think it'll be just sit behind. Let's be honest, David Wagner sat behind the ball, didn't he? He was actually quite brave in the respects of how much space he left out wide, but then they really funneled round and it was like a 5-4-1 for the most part. The question I got for you, Seb, is I'm just bringing that up, and it was I know Johnny Rowe was the quality on the day, but they also had Duffy, McLean, Ashley Barnes started, Angus Gunn and Jack Stacey. And it felt like those players' experience and ability to play the occasion was massively helpful. And I mean, God, if McLean doesn't play, they've just got, I mentioned Stacey as well. Where are the 200 appearances in English football characters, if you know what I mean? That would be a concern if you're a Norwich fan, and something I'm like, oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, Darling's got some experience, but yeah, you look at the relative inexperience. Sarah played in that game as well, didn't he? I think in the Portman Road game. I remember him dropping deep to pick the ball up, and yeah, suddenly with the likes of Duffy not there, Ashley Barnes not there, Kenny McLean not there, it's a real spine of a side. A lot of experience that they've kind of missed out on, and I don't know. Is it a good thing from their point of view that they're coming into this, obviously not in a good run of form, but unbeaten away from home? They must take confidence from that. They yes, Coventry and Stoke are outliers in terms of the numbers against them, but Blackburn away 2-0, decent performance, better than we did up there before the rain called off the game. Obviously, Pompey, Fratton Park's a nasty place to kind of go to. They have gone on their travels and played decently and picked up points. So yeah,
they could have said we could be sat here, and they'd lost at Stoke and they lost at Coventry. And Liam Manning had admitted that himself. And dare I say, Seb, there are things on all of our walls that form goes out of in a derby game. And these games, that they're like playoff semi-finals, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? It's not a normal league game. We would have won we would have won more of them in the last 16 years if it had been a normal league game. But that kind of cup, not even cup, it really feels like a playoff semi-final first leg type thing where, okay, there's something bigger further down the line or whatever, and we can't reveal ourselves today. But you'll hear every spin from Ipswich fans and from Norwich fans as to what's good and what's bad. There is no way that if you're in a losing run, you can spin that as good in any way, shape, form, or fashion. The only thing I will say, there is clearly on both sides an idea that you have two sides that, if you left them alone for 6 months, will clearly both be better in 6 months, and we're not where we need to be. Just quickly on the home thing, would you be more confident if this game was actually at Carrow?
I was about to ask you the exact same thing.
Well, you can answer that.
Given how they've gone, yes, probably, because there'd be so much pressure on them to get it right at their home stadium. And I would imagine if you were able to go there, score early, the crowd would become so toxic, given the kind of how they were not necessarily full out. I think they were chanting for Manning to sort it out in the previous home game before the West Brom game as well. So yeah, perhaps at Portman Road it would at Carrow Road it would be a different matter and score early. But then score early on Sunday, and their heads might well just drop, and it could be hopefully what we all want it to be, and hopefully a resounding victory, regardless of how both sides have had this stuttering start to the season.
Two more things I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about clean sheets, and I want to talk about anxiety, and they are linked. Seb, would you like to guess when the last time Norwich turned up at Portman Road and didn't score? Spoiler alert, we might have mentioned it already.
Is it the 5-0? Is that the last time they didn't score at Portman Road?
7 years. And I think and we'll get into predictions, I think Ipswich have to keep a clean sheet to beat Norwich, and I think they have to get 2 goals ahead because of and I know footballers are mentally better prepared than you or me, sat crapping our pants in the stand, worried footballers that do it every single day. They're switched on, they're dialed in, but anxiety in a stadium does do funny things, doesn't it? Talk to me about the atmosphere in the stadium, because I've got and tell me if I'm wrong about this in the chat, I've got so many memories of being at Portman Road and thinking, we're doing all right. We're in this. They're not looking that dangerous. Goal.
Cameron Jerome 1-0. Yeah, it's
right.
That's an astonishing stat though. They've scored every visit since 1998.
Someone correct me if I'm wrong about that in the chat. I don't think we've managed to shut them out since 19.
I've just been thinking, and I can think even in the wins. There's a 3-2 win, there's a 2-1 win, a 3-1 win. They usually do
a couple
score
of 0-0s at Carrow.
Yeah, and the 2-0 where Vilnius scored and Darren Bent scored right at the end. But at Portman Road, I think you are right. The atmosphere needs to be rocking. It's not ideal that it's at 12 p.m. on a Sunday. That's never great. There's the coach welcome beforehand, isn't there? So hopefully that'll whip up a bit of a frenzy amongst the fans. But I saw you on either the Talk Norwich City one or the Pinken show in the last couple of days, and you said that if you're Azor Matasiwa, if you're Jens Kajust, you've got no history of this game. To you, it's just another game. So therefore, is the atmosphere that important? They weren't, like you said, amazing top-level athletes don't feel nerves like we do. To them, a lot of those players, this is just another game, isn't it? Apart from Leif Davis and George Hurst,
Did Hurst play in either?
He didn't play in April. He played in the December one. Yeah, he didn't play in the April one. It was Kiefer Moore, wasn't it? But yeah, apart from those two, no one's got any experience of this. They've all moved on from that very brief kind of couple of games against them. Then obviously before that, we were in League One and we didn't play them for a good few years. So yeah, as you said on those shows, these players are going into it, and the nerves will be in the stands. Hopefully that won't translate to the pitch, because to them it's another game, isn't it? But hopefully we can get it rocking. If we can make it rocking, score early, then if we can do what we did against Portsmouth, where Jaden Philogene bangs one in after 8-9 minutes, whatever it is, then you'd like to think that hopefully we can go on to
the baton. I know it will be rocking. You go from that anxious, horrible helicopters, dogs, segregation, high vis, police everywhere, And it's always wintry, and it's always in the morning as well when you're getting down there, because it's always a midday police kickoff. You go from that, it'll go loud, but that baton has to be passed to the players. And, they played so well in that 2-2, and they could have gone in halftime with am I just being a coward about the 2-goal advantage thing? I just feel, well, you tell me, what is the anxiety going to be like in that stadium if the board goes up, 6 minutes stoppage time, end of the game, Ipswich are leading 1-0?
Oh, it'll be horrible, because
Unbearable.
we're a side that can't keep clean sheets, so we will all obviously assume the worst given the run against them as well. I think your 2-goal advantage is probably just even 2 goals going into a prolonged period of injury time, given what's happened in the past with the closer equaliser, etc. You probably would still feel incredibly nervous about them getting it across the line. Let's just quickly, because we're at 50, we're at nearly 55 minutes, aren't we? How are we going to line up? Do you think the 6 changes that we kind of made will jump out, and we'll go back to that more recognizable kind of Portsmouth team? The keeper and the back 4 are probably set, I guess. Could Ashley Young come in at right back to add a bit of experience? Played in some huge games in his career, a set piece threat as well, because Norwich aren't great from set pieces. Nunez would be great to start and add an extra narrative, but I can't look past Matasiwa or Kiyust in the centre of the pitch. And then for me, I'm thinking obviously Smodic in the 10, Philogene to return on the left, George Hurst to return up front, and then right wing, McAteer wasn't great against Bristol City, so do you give Egeli another chance at Portman Road to try and work his magic? What would you do in the central midfield, the 3 behind the striker, if we assume that George Hurst is going to start?
Well, what would I do and what Kieran McKenna would do are two slightly different things. I wish I would do what Kieran McKenna does, because he's a very smart cookie. It felt classic McKenna 3-game week stuff. And you must have done it, Seb, where you've gone to these midweek games and you're like, really, Gaffer? And then we won, and we won the majority of them. We certainly, all made sense afterwards. It's just difficult when you don't win. We're actually going to disagree. So shall I put your predicted 11 up, and you can take us through your logic?
Yeah, so I've just think Darnell Furlong, I thought, was not amazing against Pompey or against Bristol City. I just think Ashley Young has played in some huge games in his career, Manchester derbies, Manchester Liverpool, etc., Villa, Birmingham games. So could he be kind of the wise head on the pitch that you sometimes need in these kind of atmospheres, possibly? And he adds a set piece threat as well, so wouldn't be overly surprised for him to come in. Greaves and O'Shea, I think, stay as the centre arse. Leif Davis, obviously, no-brainer at the back. Kiyust and Matasiwa are the central midfield pair for me. Chuba Akpom, I know he won the penalty against Bristol City, but didn't really get into the game at all, so I'm bringing back Smodic. Philogene and Hurst are no-brainers. And then that right wing, McAteer, wasn't great. We haven't really nailed it down yet. I know it's not great to be chopping and changing your entire right flank between games, but I just think, is it a game for Egeli, because he's an unknown to a lot of the opposition? We spent 17 million quid on him, so at some point you're going to want to get him into the side, and easing him in at Portman Road is probably better than away games. So that's why I've gone for him to come in. But yeah, for me, Ashley Young at right back would seem sensible given his experience. Egeli for the X factor, and then Smodic in for Akpom, who has struggled a little bit in a couple of games. Which part are you disagreeing with?
Just the right-hand side, Seb. And as much as we talked about experience being important, I think there's enough outside of Young. And obviously you want him right across the day. You want him there. You probably want him coming off the bench. You want him mentoring players through. I just don't think you make 2 changes down that one side. I love the idea of Egeli coming in and having his breakout game and winning us the game, but I just think it'll be McAteer, and it'll be a player that McKenna's obviously identified as, look, is McAteer going to win us the game? I'd love him to, but in terms of him getting the goal or the assist or whatever, but I just feel that's the way McKenna will go, and maybe it can be won elsewhere with him as the very coachable, good physicality experience of the league with Leicester. But and this goes back to the conversation at the top of the show. It's you've not mentioned, you've mentioned Akpom, you've not mentioned Clark or Azon. There's no Nunes there, which I don't want to be a circus at the end of the game. And I never want to be a smug football fan, but what a flex that would be if you had the game won. And it's like, in you go, play stoppage time. Go on, lad. Have a little trot out, get some minutes under your belt. I'll regret saying that, but it would be. But look, if we're struggling and we need we need a defence broken down or a set play, then no flex there at all. Get him in there. But we know how much McKenna wants to develop this pattern of play. And we think he wants to develop Greaves and O'Shea and Furlong and McAteer, don't we? And, build up those partnerships. And obviously, Caust and Matasiwa they're already a little bit ahead. Shall we do it, Seb? We'll do some predictions.
Yeah. So go on, you go first and I'll give you my thoughts.
I think we need the clean sheet. But I also think we need the 2 goals, but that's my coping mechanism. So I will, for the first time in Blue Monday history, predict an Ipswich Town win in an East Anglian derby. I'll go 1-0, which will be unbearable because we'll probably score in like minute 5 and then gradually give away lots and lots of chances and set pieces. But all I'll say is I don't think we'll win if they score. I think they need the clean sheet. So get your predictions in the chat, by the way, and I'll put as many of these up on the screen as we can. Go on, Seb.
I think they will score, but I think we will score more. I think we will win.
They're going to score with their first shot because they always do.
Yeah. After we've battered them for the first 20 minutes, and it'll be horrible, won't it? I think we're going to win 2-1. I think it's going to be nervy, but I just think that the hoodoo will eventually be broken. Let's be honest. If we can't do it this time, when are we going to be able to break this horrible kind of run, this horrible curse that it feels like we've had over us for the last 16 years at times? Yeah, a 2-1 win for Town. I think Schmodic is going to open his account for the season as well. Got himself into a couple of decent positions against Portsmouth. So, 2-1. Hopefully, see the game out. Hopefully, it's a more of a comfortable 2-1 and their heads kind of drop going into injury time, or we can just play it out relatively calmly. But yes, I too will predict a victory for us in the East Anglian derby.
My God. Thank you, everybody, for joining the Ipswich versus Norwich Blue Monday podcast preview show. This is kind of my last thing I have to do about this game before this game takes place, and I kind of just want to keep talking now because just got to park it all now. Maybe I'll do something on YouTube on my channel tomorrow just to keep my nerves at bay. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you for your predictions and your comments and your super chats, and get involved via that QR code up there for Blue Monday Live. We may get a surge in tickets if there's a good result on Sunday. What would Neil Warnock say at a time like this? He'd say, enjoy it, but enjoy it by being disciplined, wouldn't he? Oh my God, Seb. Right. You can have the last word. The last thing I'm going to say is, please effing win, please.
Yeah, to quote the great Adrian in Rocky 2, just win. Come on, you Blues.
Oh, thank you, everybody. And enjoy it on Sunday if you can.